Guys, welcome to another The Review. And as usual, please do pay attention to my voice and see if you can identify the different types of beings, human beings, accents that are coming through, so you can eliminate them from the possibility that I myself may be experiencing simultaneously, and then we can dissolve the review into one linear timeline and then destroy the review once and for all because it's stupid, possibly. Okay, so deep breath. Okay, today's review, and so this will be the second one today. I'm hoping to release 2 or 3 a day and literally battle my way through in resistance to prove that it's successful, not only for me, but for others that support it. And should you choose to copy me, we could eliminate the mimic design and realize it's okay to acknowledge it. Okay, so if we do this, there can be no such thing as the sheeple because they're already focusing on the way celebrities do things and make themselves powerful because of it, except they don't because they worship idols, whereas we listen to each other and consider how it would affect our life. And if it is supportive, then we continue with the delivery of the review in a new way, which is to implement the now existence by taking control of it, and that would be known as our life. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. This is Nebadon's review, revival scene. It's about 424, and then it's about 5/8 before its own knowing. So we're looking at the Mars-Saturn review and how it is oppositional to the appearance of Venus and why it's affecting the Royal Alpha Draconis Seraphim template that we've already processed through in the 24-strand DNA. And then what we'll do is do a huge clearing and hopefully we'll initiate the new body template sequence, which came in about 1.5 years ago for me, maybe a little bit less. And this was one that I personally designed in my higher model, and that's not the one that's running around moving through the review. This is known as the blue sapphire star and the blue sapphire moon. And so these were put forward to see whether or not they were capable of achieving through humanity as a more stable delivery mechanism. And if it is that you've let go of the twin flame concept and acknowledge that you must be alone and stable within your own authenticity, sovereignty, and knowing, then you yourself may be considered for that particular review, which is nothing like this. It's more active and supportive of your immediate knowing. And that is that you would be willing to deliver what is necessary and establish the ground zone to transcend what would be known as the coronavirus. Okay, and so what we'll do is we'll look at this and the idea that energy itself may be responsible and how we approve of things and defile them because of the belief systems of many, and why it is that they are always attempting to seduce our knowing. And that is because we know too much about the review. Okay, so I'm sorry if it's bitty. I have to move to acknowledge the right word and its position in time space so that I don't sabotage its review, because apparently everything is conscious and it's all deciding for us, which I think is absolutely bloody stupid. What we will do next, the only resolve can be chaos, and then I'll talk about the nature of Marseas and why that's so important in the review and the face of deceit, which could be seen as the beautiful ones. Okay, and so this is what we do. Okay, so hopefully that in the background is not too noisy. And as you consider me and are acutely observing what it is that needs to be released, perhaps you yourself could identify that you may or may not be to dissolve. And so what we'll do is bring it to the 0 point and understand that the concept itself may be delivering. And because of this, we're seen as astute or maybe too profound to deliver me or anyone else, including yourself, past that point of view, which means all we have is knowing. And from that point, the delivery is required. Okay, so in the layman, we would say this. I understand the process inside out at this point. I'm extremely bored. I know what's going on, and because I know, I become dangerous. That I'll remain quiet because they told me, and then they'll still deliver, and I'll watch, knowing full well that I'm responsible for nothing at all because my higher self did it first, and then looking at the possibility that we are seeing many different vibrations of consciousness, all activating the release through what we know to be torture, and saying that we are being delivered through it. And this could be known as the idea of chaos and its decisive mechanism. And so its intention for us is to suffer because we don't allow that way of being. And we say, because of this, we know it all. Okay, so looking at the nature of Marseas and the design. So Marseas can be seen as the god of chaos. And some would say it is the most loving, and others would say it is the creator. Okay, so what we have here is an idea that has been brought down to earth, and this idea may be so profound that even to acknowledge it, you would feel your body breaking down because it is not essential. And so, how is it that chaos reigns free if there's no identity and no one to observe it? And so, the observer would be the one that has already formulated its own consideration into the approval state, and that is to be recognized as solid form. And that one knows how to do it well. So someone needs to be straight here for us to acknowledge the chaos exists. And then from that point, it cannot tolerate us because it's always moving. And we ourselves become the overall view of what is required to see life. And that is our own doing. Okay. And so bringing it down to layman again, we would say this. Someone saw someone do something, they have healthy boundaries and high values. Because of this, what appears to be before them is seen as oppositional to that particular way of life. From that point, we can say chaos is born because someone's got an opinion on something and then they're dancing around the flames of desire because this one acknowledges no more what it came to be. Okay, so again, to bring it down again, because that was quite complex. My neighbor is always changing his mind and never ever aligns to anything, whereas I live my life in a structured, disciplined way. Okay. And because you identify that, you must be within chaos. And because it's always moving, you cannot make the view other than to cement yourself through the formality of knowing what's right for you only. Because of this, you are always seen as the individuation. Okay. No, he thinks he's doing the right thing, and you don't need to bloody well piss off. That's Saint Germain at level 3, isn't it? Okay. So, um, right. Okay. So, here we go. Saint Germain's coming in for review at level 3 via the autonomous aspect. So, he's already supporting level review based upon Marseas' transition through pi that it would consider more of its formality. Marseas itself is always before its own. So we could say the result of love is chaos. And so the creator reigns free because of what it appears to be doing. And they're always trying to work out what the creator is. Now, my opinion of Marseas and my personal experience is probably different from a few because no one's talking about it yet in my particular reality stream. And that is that Marseas could be seen as the personality that stands before what is known to be creative, except the creator cannot be defined because it itself does not exist at all, right? So we could say that it's so profound. It's so profound that it does not exist, and yet it does at exactly the same time. And it's never within chaos because it's always loving and observing you. And a loving creator would allow you to create yourself based upon the belief systems and standards of humanity at this time and has always been. Now, my personal review of the creator, and not to try to work out what it is, because there are many things occurring. And to identify with any label at all, we are probably stupid because we are taking on the opinion of someone else to define us and clear that review. So what we're doing is dropping all labels. When it comes to Earth life, we have a duty to live it. Okay, and we really do, irrespective of what's going on. What we see here is a dominant view of what is occurring behind the scenes, and those who are extremely psychic are privy to it. And this is sabotaging and dominating any potential life that we could do. I mean, I've been through trances where they tried to stop my breath. They tried to stop me doing many things. Eating's gone on for 2 years. They sort of tried to stop me drinking. So they poison the water, poison the food, try to stop me breathing. They are using all kinds of techniques based upon a cybergenetic review, which cannot be acknowledged within Marseas because it's always moving, to identify myself as the opinionator of my own formality, and therefore no universal design can be acknowledged because of what we do. And then we look at the idea that everybody has their own personal universe or develops into one. And then we have the idea of Marseas, and that is that it is the creator and it is the ruler of the universe. And there's only one of these or two, and we're yet to know it. However, Marseas, based upon the immediate review, is the ruler of the universe. And that universe is the overall of all that we can acknowledge. And therefore, space is required for us to contaminate our own consideration and move through the review whilst it acknowledges nothing but our own formality. Okay, so it itself could be, and not Marseas, we'd say it itself could be looking at us to approve of its own knowing, and it itself is moving to support nothing at all because it's known as only or only you or only nothing, or it does not exist at all. Okay, so again, the loving creator would observe you. And from the beginning, it may say this, and this is just one example of many things that could occur and not necessarily what is. Okay, so what I want to do is break all hypnotic suggestions at this point and maybe running through the subliminal mode of Pharaoh Z, isn't it? So it's similar to the or it's moving, so it's like the order bar frequency. So this is where you take things in through your subconscious mind and then you store them to liberate yourself later on by knowing that you are at fault always for doing anything at all, which is so stupid. What we have is an extremely high level review, way too high level for the Earth, where everything is solved through the solar plexus because there's no control at all, because we stand before the creator, which is really, really stupid. Okay, so my personal view of this is that if the creator loves us that much, the loving creator, it would say this, would you like to come together to do something? So it itself does not exist. And so it acknowledges that there is existence by asking it first if it would like to come alive. At that point, it observes you by being nothing at all, and then it basically explodes with joy, perhaps, and then you have the Big Bang, which will support the scientists and their theory, but not the God particle, and I'll go on about that later because that's just a review to trap God, in my personal opinion, which could be extremely toxic. I'm yet to resolve the review, but it appears that by having an opinion on anything, we are always trapping ourselves. So what they do is ask us to go into meditation. The problem is when you become fully transcendental, your body is already there. You are too, and you've resolved, and you're observing the methodology of another, which is to contaminate the review, and that's done via a linear mindset and resolve nothing because chaos does not exist to you. It means that there's a plan of action in place, you've identified it, and you might consider it like this. This may be the consideration, sorry. They're definitely up to something, the government, aren't they? What they've done is they've invented the coronavirus, which is a load of bullshit. And what they're doing is they are trying to have people stand apart from each other so that the cameras in the shops can identify each person separately and see what they're up to. Next, they'll invent microchipping because that's going to control us. And this will be to basically dominate the cybergenetic distortions through Pi that they brought in through the internet. And these need to be controlled because they're far too supportive of humanity. And that is because they're always up to something. Therefore, no one can plot and plan behind their backs because they already know what we're up to. Okay, so what you're observing here is the final review. So it's gone down to earth and it appears as pestilence, and that would be the coronavirus. Now, it doesn't matter who did what. Someone did it, someone did not. Maybe it's natural. It could be either. I would say it's definitely all three. And so at that point, you can dissolve what appears to be the equilateral triangle of deceit, because someone's already up to something and always is. And so what we're learning here is to not overly identify with one particular way of doing things, because that way could place us in a particular time sequence where it definitely is that way at all. So what you do is you see three or more and you say, well, it could be anything. And then you say this, it may not be nothing at all. And so at that point, you're resolving the review by saying there are many potentials and not necessarily what is. So what they're doing is they're preying on a subconscious mind, we could say at level 3, if you believe they really are going for it. And that would have you eliminate the review to follow what they want you to do, and no one knows who they are. They could be an alien species. I would say absolutely yes, they exist. And they would say they are cyborgs from outer space. Say, yeah, they are the food you eat every moment and you think that you're safe because of it. They are what looks at you. And so what you have again are many different ways of opposing life, because you overly identify with that particulate and decide for yourself where you want to go. This is why it's always important to sit down and clear the subconscious mind and acknowledge that it itself is formulating. However, the moment you do this and identify there's something to do, it itself has power over you from the opposite side, where you'll be shown there's nothing to offend you. So we could say this on the other side of things, they may be microchipping people because in the future everyone starts to time travel and literally destroys their solar plexus or destroys the time-space continuum, because they're always paradoxing themselves out by meeting each other. And it could be there because it's trying to protect you. Now, either way you look at it, something is occurring. And why is it occurring could be because of you. And that's because you overly identify with the creator. And so what we're looking at here is the concept, and it is a very simple idea, that it itself is separate and for a good reason. And we only become creative when we are balanced, and that's because we are in the flow state. And to become balanced, we would need to synthesize the polarities. Okay, and so that's the German government coming through at level 3. No, it's basically it's a review of Swedish house mafia because they've been eating too many meatballs. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Someone sitting there thinking up something. I wonder if they ate too many, meatballs, and that way they become really. No, they were devouring. And this is what we're talking about. The thought becomes the thought. Before the thought, someone else thought it. And before you know it, we're looking at the neural networks that have connected us all to each other with this one supermind, and we'd call it the Adam Cameron. And this is the one that's asleep all the time in the center of the universe. Some would say that's Nebadon itself. And so from that point, where do we go? If we're always being controlled because we are a thought in the mind of another. And so that theory, that complexity, has been brought into the initial sequence at the lowest formality, and that would be how you approve of your own viral knowing. So you become the parasite in another's body on a macrocosmic scale. Sorry, I'm having an epiphany and a realization at level 3. And so you're seeing the results of your review because you wouldn't sit there and do nothing, which I think is ridiculously stupid. Life goes on. And so to sit here and do nothing at all, it's really stupid, because life is all around us, mirroring to us that we are still alive ourselves. Okay, so I'll be back in a moment because there's too many people hijacking. I need to remove them. Yeah. So looking at the creator as a separate entity, and he keeps coming in, he's really annoying everyone. Looking at the creator as a separate entity, and that itself is supportive of separation overall. So we could say that as above, so below, all things are separate. If we say all things are one, it means only one of us exists. We would say we are as one, and as one would allow room for us to make choices. And that way we can appreciate each other and the fact we're all down here. It's very simple. If we say as above, so below within the universal, I would say the idealization of the autonomy, and that is that you yourself are relevant because of what you do. It means someone has acknowledged that you exist because they too identify with the separation model. And so we could say this: everything within the universal design is separate for a reason. The spiritual hierarchy, the supreme being, the Melchizedek, the creator, Marseas, Elysius, Onase, Marseas, need I go on, Kade, Anakin, and these are all energies that are, and I know that last one will be really, really weird for some people, that Anakin itself could be an energy. Well, Anakin is a Skywalker, and so it really is something that is obvious based upon our immediate review that we have been inspired by what came before us, and those were what we would call aliens, which I think is really offensive because we're all brothers and sisters of the universe, and we simply are. And to identify something outside of ourselves or before us as alien would suggest that we acknowledge we are too, and it could be how we behave, which is the reason why we are moving through that particular knowing. So really, how can it be alien if we're all separate and we're just different from each other? So alien, foreign to this particular planet, I would say, perhaps, or maybe not. Not if you believe all things are one. Therefore, you would say there's no such thing as the planets. They're all here now. And we could be on Mars moving through its review, which is why there's so much experimentation. And so this is something that we're looking at too. And the energy itself can go on and on. Then you've got Kade, you've got only love, only you. And there are so many different types of energies that are positioned in particular places. Jehovah, the supreme deity known as the Father Supreme. You've got the illicit sun. And literally the structure is that we would be separate, and then we would acknowledge once more that it was there for a reason, the creator itself as its own. And when you're balanced and have synthesized the polarities in your body, no longer male or female, you synthesize the light, and then you are balanced. And he's really annoying, isn't he? Can you stop coming up through the body, please? Thank you. There's so many people channeling through me at the moment. It's ridiculous. And he keeps coming up through his cerebral cortex trying to make a point that he's powerful. And yet you do not acknowledge the fact that you may be opposing that particular view by acting on it. And that's because you're still within the etheric review. What you're doing is trying to affect my physical reality. And it is being affected, which is completely illegal. I should be able to communicate profoundly without the identification of its knowing coming in past level 2. So you move in through the cerebral cortex, attack me at the solar plexus, claim you're powerful because of it. You lose power because of what you do, because you're trying to prove a point. Pi is your master, and then Marseas looks down at you like this, saying, what on earth are you doing? And it was always reflected in his eyes. And so you really don't understand the nature of being, because you're always trying to identify with that possibility, and therefore you don't exist because it's always active. I mean, we can go on, can't we? No, this is Shani, and this review is very profound indeed. My master is down here with me trying to diffuse it because he said it's way too informative. He said not really, it's more to do with the jurisdiction of its knowing and contaminated view based upon its own decisiveness and how it would deliver its formality. At some point, we're going to start speaking English again, aren't we? Yeah, because this is the only way that we maneuver. And at this point, we sound like a textbook. Are we trying to delete the cyborg genetic review by becoming more and more textbook? Eventually, we'll be running binary code and saying 10100101, and everyone will understand it completely. Exactly. And isn't that stupid? And this is what they're trying to push me to, where I sit there and I'm only talking light language. Sorry, I'm only delivering in light language. They could say that's the same thing. Absolutely not. Light language was sent by the Lord Maitreya to those who are worthy based upon the 144,000 template, and we'll go on as per the review and ask each other why the Seraphim template is still active when people are considering their autonomy as the only view and how it should be, and the delivery will become decisive. I think it is. Yeah, at the moment I've got so many beings and entities coming in trying to dissolve review by supporting me, opposing me simultaneously, and liberating the body from its own review because the body's become intelligent. At the point that I leave myself, and I'm also asking myself this: why, God, why am I still feeling what I am when I know that I'm complete. And if you don't want any more information out there, then what's the bloody point in it? And I would say this: there's nothing wrong with delivering to those who are required to receive it. And so the intention is only bring those to me who are ready for this or are supposed to be delivering the review. And so they'll be called. And because there's a minority, it's seen as powerful because the majority wouldn't be able to receive it, except when it breaks it down into the layman, for example, the delivery view, and it itself is within its own autonomy, people can understand it. So what we're looking at here is the idea that the physical body is vibrating, is physical as per your review, but is separate. Every molecule, every atom, everything is separate and spinning, perhaps. And then the identification is to solidify what came before as the overall view, and then utilize the possibility that it could be conforming even after it's passed away and comes back to dissolve you more. I mean, this is clearly an experiment, isn't it? The petri dish of hope, they'd call it, wouldn't they? Who's going to escape the review and end up as the magnifying glass, yeah, or the microscope? I wouldn't go that far because it's really deep, that possibility, but how do we do what we do? And why is it relevant? Because of the design of Nebadon. And why is it always revolving? So why could be the potential? And as we see what is right in front of us, we refuse to acknowledge that there are forces at play that are always seeking to approve you because you participate in life. And so if it is you feel you're stopped, then at that point, it's really bloody important to ask yourself, are you worthy of anything at all? Because if you're sitting there doing nothing, waiting for the government to sort it out, you could be waiting a bloody long time. I mean, the other day I went to a cash point and I saw a sticker on it and it said this cash point is free of the coronavirus because it's been in quarantine for over 72 hours. And I thought to myself, what a bloody load of rubbish. We're still absorbing into the atmosphere and then it's raining. And just because you've got a mask over your face and you're not breathing or coughing in someone's direction does not mean you're not sweating. And if that sweat is in a reversal view based upon the fact that somebody believes you've left life, so they look at you and say this: I can't stand those spiritual people, they're so bloody stupid. That's where the reversal code comes from. So you're in opposition because you don't like the way each other looks or what each other does. And then they tap into that or they hook onto it. And then at that point, you release the bacteria from your body, it's absorbed into the atmosphere, becomes rain. And much like during the 1960s when they were all taking acid, it comes down upon you and therefore the spread of the coronavirus. I mean, what exactly are we looking at here? So what I wanted to do now is look at the idea that we are receiving inspiration from a space that has always been, therefore there's no such thing as the creator. Now, I don't want to offend, and it's just one way of looking at it because I love the creator and I believe that it's its own, but it's so profound that it doesn't exist. And so if we look at the revolutionary design of our own knowing, so how we evolve because of what we do and what we see in others, we would say that inspiration itself is based upon another and how they review things and how it is received by you personally based upon what you need to learn from, which means that no one person sees the same thing twice, even though you assume that you all did the same thing or observed it. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll look at the idea of a movie. And I'm sorry about the noise, it's next door. And isn't it funny how I'm in the middle of this profound review and then they start kicking off at level 3 because they don't want anyone to hear it. At the same time, it could be dissolving the review at level 40 something, 49. It keeps moving because of how we vibrate and the idea that a lawnmower could be the reason for design at level 2, and that is why your heart beats the way it does based upon your knowing. And this is what we're talking about. It's so complex and really exciting, but at the same time, please shut up. I'm doing something. It cannot acknowledge the review because I don't exist. Therefore, it's always noisy. If I did exist, nothing would be seen before me because I require quiet. Therefore, if I really was finished, I would be still on every level, therefore moving. I'd be invisible because of it. I become myself, which doesn't exist, therefore the creator, for example, and everything would be silent around me. There'd be nothing but time, and time wouldn't identify me because it cannot exist unless I do. Isn't that profound? Yeah, I'm sorry, I've had some really high level realization. Of course, it's gotten louder, so I'm going to have to shout now. Bear with me. That was a profound review. So I'll continue. Okay, here we go. Consider, if you will, for a moment. I know it's got louder again. Aren't they stupid? It's coming closer and closer. I need to stop this. They're really, really annoying me. He's going down the road, isn't he? I don't understand why they're doing that. It could be a drill, actually. It could be a drill. I need to pause this. Hold on. Okay, I'm going to go on and try my best because it's getting louder and louder, which means I'm definitely onto something. Or does it? It could be something happening outside of me, and this has nothing to do with me or my universe, but why am I hearing it? Could it be someone else's ears in my light body that were placed there by a simultaneous distortion to acknowledge that something exists when it didn't, to form me back into life? To consider myself once more as obsolete, therefore the physical manifestation of my own knowing, and it itself would vibrate so fast that it would give the appearance of a solid, confirming the illusion that I don't exist as myself anymore. Exactly. And this is what I'm talking about. These are very high level revelations. Even the Zeta Grey would be down here, the very high level teacher ones, and they would be like this. No, you're dreaming. Exactly. They would find it hilarious, wouldn't they? No, because it's very, very high level. So the idea is this, that the creative energy itself comes down and you're inspired to do something, paint, dance, write, and you're not considering anyone else's view or looking at them for your inspiration. So when you do that, you're within the linear formality. When you are balanced in the flow state, the creative juice from the creator drops down like a nectar of the gods and flows through your body. At that point, you feel motivated to paint something or dance. Now, what we could say from this point of view is that no one is part of the creator. It rewards you for a job well done, and that is getting yourself into balance. Therefore, it's separate. However, if you rely on someone else to inspire you, and that basically is looking, that review is musicians, actors, writers, directors. So at the ground level zone, we would say this: unless you've had, well, not even a dream, because it could be that you were experiencing it in a previous life, or beings came in who did it before you to inspire you, which means there's no such thing as a creator, which means itself is always solid. And I would say no, not physically. It means it technically doesn't exist. Therefore, stealing creative code is stupid beyond belief, because what they're doing is trying to mimic the creator, except they can't because it doesn't exist at all. So in the end, everyone will be safe because they'll go somewhere where they can never be seen again. And that is because they try to mimic a review that doesn't exist. Therefore, the silent grave ground of Marseas, and that would be shown to you through anesthetic when you go into hospital and you have an injection and you go under and there's nothing. No consciousness, no awareness, no activity, no thought, nothing. And that right there is your freedom. So if you're really looking for your freedom, that's where you're going. And the silent grave ground is part of the natural design that you would be way too dangerous to have an earth life because you won't let people live it. So let's look at the idea of Nebadon and revolution. And we say, as we revolve before ourselves, to acknowledge there is nothing more than our identity. And as we identify with what it is we see, we come to life once more. And that itself can be seen as toxic. And how on earth do we resolve anything when we're expected to not do anything? And at that point, we are no more but the prisoner of our own mind. Okay. And so we could say the thought within a thought becomes the activity that you perceive, and it was never due to Nebadon. I've got a clappy fish in my brain doing this. And it really is because I've embodied the Adam Cameron illegally. And the entire review, I believe, on the ground floor at the moment is due to this universal design in the shape of a man that's asleep, and that itself interprets out the universe to revolve around it while we do all the work, and it sits there doing nothing at all, which means the lower mind resolves itself immediately, and then there's no need for us to review anything at all except participate in the unconscious delivery, and that would be known as the 3D mind state, more commonly known as service to self. Okay, so we'll look at that in a moment. What I'll do is stop it for now because it's too noisy. I'll come back and then I'll do part 2, Nebadon's revival, and we'll look at how Marseas considers us as the overall view of the potential distortion that could challenge our opinion at level 3, and I have to choose wisely because I'm moving, so each word is positioned before me and I don't want to distort its view, so I have to choose in a way that is supportive, which is really difficult. So this is the transit I'm going through at the moment, and the majority are always looking to formulate. So the faster you speak, the more asleep you are, the bigger words you use, the more authentic you are because you studied well, except no one understands you because you're always trying to prove that you're better. I mean, that is it's stupid. That's another revelation. But, well, do you know what's going to happen? This time tomorrow, I would have completed the Bible because I'm having epiphanies left, right, and center. There'll be nothing left but Jehovah and his review, and he'll be loving. Because we're resolving Jehovah's body based upon the idea that he is physical in a cloud in the sky, judging us and being extremely wrathful because we won't listen to what he has to say. And isn't that funny that no one listens to me through this process because I seem to be completing the Jehovian body at level 2, and that is that no one will pay attention to God. So as the thrones and principalities through the burning ones, I'm transmuting the process of Saint Germain and his violet abode, and that is to deliver life because he has a magic wand. And we could go on and on, couldn't we? And it's so funny the amount of belief systems that have made themselves physical through the astral and then continue to challenge us by showing us nothing but human life, apart from a few instances I've had. Incidences. Don't try to stop that word. You're restricting me through architecture. I don't like it. Instances I've had where I've seen some very, very, very strange things, and they have approached me. And by the way, I've got evidence, and it will come out later. But for now, I'm going to review respectfully before nothing at all and observe my own authenticity and pray a lot to Jehovah, right? And so this is what I'm going to do. I'm not challenging God. I'm challenging my avataric form that thinks it's okay to keep delivering people through the body until I realize there's nothing there at all. And that's why I can walk through a wall. Stupid, isn't it? Right. What we'll do is come back later. But for now, take care, breathe. The second part will be the clearing, and then we'll look at the new body templates, the blue sapphire star and the blue sapphire moon, which no one is speaking about. And if it is that you feel it's right for you after you have meditated perhaps and let go, then we'll initiate that sequence and see how we feel after that, completing the need to go into Atlantis because we're experimenting on each other and actually support that God is present, because I have 6 years experience as a professional healer and as a holistic therapist. You can rely on me. Okay, so let's see what we can do. Take care, everyone, and speak to you soon. Goodbye.